Naledi Gachagua moved through the silent office halls like a shadow, her steps soft, careful, almost trained to never disturb anyone. At only 22, she worked the night shift in one of the richest corporate towers in Nairobi, but nothing about her life felt rich. Her uniform was clean but worn, her stomach often empty, and her shoes had a crack across the sole that let in cold air whenever she walked. Still, she kept her back straight and her eyes steady. She cleaned every surface as if it deserved respect, as if her effort somehow proved she had not given up on her own dreams. Every night, she hid how tired she truly was. She stretched her breaks so her coworkers wouldn't notice she was too weak to stand still for long. She washed her face in the bathroom sink so no one would see the dullness in her eyes or the weight of exhaustion pulling down her shoulders. She had learned to smile politely whenever someone passed her, even though no one ever really looked at her. The hunger, she kept to herself. She drank water to fill her stomach and chewed gum so the emptiness would stop bothering her. She refused to complain, because complaining never fed her brother or paid for medicine. As she moved from office to office, she wiped tables with gentle hands, arranged chairs neatly, and polished the glass until her reflection looked like a faint ghost behind it. She took pride in working properly, even if no one ever noticed. When she swept a floor, she imagined she was sweeping a path toward a future she hoped would one day be brighter. When she scrubbed a mark off a desk, she pictured washing away every obstacle that kept her life stuck in struggle. People often walked past without greeting her. Some acted as if she were invisible, as if cleaners were part of the building, not human beings with feelings or worries. Still, she kept going, because survival didn't leave her any choice. And even though she walked with tired legs and broken shoes, she carried herself with quiet dignity. In her heart, she believed that doing her work well meant she hadn't lost who she was. She wanted the world to see her, but even if it didn't, she refused to see herself as small. Every night, in that shining tower filled with powerful people, Naledi held on to the only thing she could control, her pride. Naledi's real life began the moment she stepped outside the tower each morning. While the city woke up, she dragged her tired body home to a tiny one-room space where her younger brother waited. He was always her first thought. His illness had turned her into both a sister and a parent long before she was ready. She gave him his medicine, made sure he ate, and encouraged him even when her own energy was gone. Every coin she earned went toward keeping him stable, and every shift she took was one more chance to make sure he never felt alone. To cover the hospital bills, she accepted any extra hours offered. Sometimes she worked 2 nights in a row without proper rest, forcing her eyes to stay open even when they burned from lack of sleep. Most days, she slept only 3 hours, curling up on a thin mattress beside her brother's bed. Even when she was exhausted, she woke quickly at his coughs or discomfort, always ready to help him. Her body felt heavy, her thoughts slow, but her heart never allowed her to stop. She kept doing everything silently, hoping one day things would get better. Despite carrying so many responsibilities, she never complained to anyone. She never talked about how her back hurt from bending over all night, or how her head ached from staying awake for too long. She kept her problems tucked deep inside, believing that sharing them wouldn't change anything. Around others, she spoke softly and rarely, as if afraid to take up space. She moved through life quietly, blending into crowds, unnoticed by people rushing through their own days. Many didn't even realize she existed, even when she stood right beside them. Her humility came naturally. She didn't want pity and never tried to impress anyone. She simply did her duties with sincerity, hoping her efforts would keep her brother safe. Her small world revolved around him, work and survival. She walked with a calmness that hid her struggles, and although she longed for someone to see her pain, she never asked for attention. In a city filled with noise, she lived like a soft whisper, present, hard-working, but overlooked. Yet deep down, she carried a quiet strength, a resilience shaped by love and sacrifice, waiting for the moment life would finally notice her. Naledi pushed her cleaning cart toward the elevator, rubbing her eyes to stay awake. The building was silent, the kind of silence that made every sound echo. When the doors opened on the top floor, she stepped out slowly. That floor was always dark, always empty, a place she cleaned quickly because no one ever used it at night. But this time something felt different. The lights were glowing brightly, casting long reflections on the polished floor. Her heart beat a little faster as she wondered if she had taken the wrong floor. But no, this was definitely the top one. She moved forward carefully, unsure if she should call out or turn around. Then she saw him. A man sat near the giant windows, shoulders drooping, suit creased like he had been wearing it for too long. He didn't move when she entered, didn't even look surprised. His eyes were red, not from anger but from something deeper. Tiredness, emptiness, a kind of pain that had nothing to do with work hours. He stared out at the city lights spreading far below, as if searching for an answer somewhere in the night sky. Naledi froze, her breath catching in her throat. She wasn't supposed to meet anyone here at this hour. This floor belonged to important people, people she normally avoided because she never wanted to disturb them. She held the handle of her cart tightly, unsure whether to speak or quietly leave. The sight of him, though, made her pause. He looked nothing like the powerful men she cleaned after. He looked human, broken a little, lost in thought, almost fragile. For a moment, she wondered why someone like him would be sitting alone so late, still wearing a suit that looked like it had survived a long, difficult day. She could feel the heaviness in the room, the kind that grows when someone has been holding their sadness alone for too long. She took a small step forward, her voice barely above a whisper, but he still didn't react. It was as if he didn't hear her, or didn't expect anyone to be there. The whole scene felt unreal. Naledi, the invisible night cleaner, standing in front of a stranger who looked like he carried the weight of an entire world on his shoulders. Naledi swallowed her fear and quickly lowered her eyes, her voice soft and shaky as she apologized for interrupting him. She stepped back, hoping he would ignore her the way most people did. But instead of brushing her off, he turned his head slowly, as if waking from a deep thought. His expression wasn't angry or annoyed. It was gentle, almost surprised, like he hadn't expected kindness from anyone at that hour. His eyes studied her for a moment, not in a rude way, but with quiet curiosity, and then he asked her name. No one ever asked that. People usually walked past her like she wasn't real, like cleaners didn't deserve to be spoken to unless something needed to be corrected. Hearing her name requested so softly made her chest tighten. She hesitated before answering, unsure why he cared. She kept her voice low, hoping not to disturb whatever thoughts had left him looking so tired. After telling him, she immediately reached for her cart, ready to leave before she caused any trouble. She didn't want anyone thinking she was trying to talk to someone she had no right to speak to. She didn't want to risk her job. She gave a small nod and turned to walk away, her steps quick and careful. But before she could disappear into the hallway, he called out to her. His voice wasn't loud, but there was a warmth in it that stopped her feet. She froze, confused. Men in suits never stopped cleaners. They never wanted conversations. Her heart beat faster as she turned back slightly, unsure what he needed. He didn't order her to return. He didn't scold her for entering the room. He simply asked her not to rush off, as if he actually wanted her there. Naledi felt a strange mix of fear and disbelief. She didn't understand why someone who looked important would want to talk to her. Her instinct told her to run, but something in his tired voice made her stay. It felt like he wasn't looking at her uniform or her old shoes. He was looking at her like she was a real person, someone worth pausing for. And in that quiet moment on the top floor, she realized this night was already different from every other night she had worked. Naledi had no idea who the man really was. To her, he was just someone sitting alone late at night, dressed in a suit that had lost its sharpness. She didn't know his name, didn't recognize his face, and didn't imagine for a second that she was standing in front of one of the wealthiest businessmen in East Africa. Kabelo Obasai was a name spoken with respect in boardrooms, written in newspapers, and whispered among people who dreamed of success. But at that moment, none of that mattered. He looked nothing like the powerful man the world believed he was. He looked human, tired, and worn down by something money could not fix. People always surrounded him during the day, yet he felt completely alone. They smiled at him because of his wealth, not because they cared. They praised him when they needed something and disappeared when they got it. Every handshake came with a hidden request, and every compliment felt like a trap. He was tired of pretending to be strong in front of people who only valued his bank account. His heart had been bruised by fake friendships, broken promises, and relationships that ended the moment he stopped giving. Even with everything he owned, he felt empty inside. Sitting on the top floor in the middle of the night was his escape. It was the only time he could breathe without someone expecting something from him. He stared at the city lights hoping to feel peace, but all he felt was the weight of being needed for all the wrong reasons. He longed for honesty, for a simple conversation that wasn't shaped by his status or money. He wanted someone to see him, not his wealth, not his power, just him. That was why Nalady's presence surprised him. She stood there quietly, not trying to impress him, not trying to flatter him, not asking for anything. She didn't know he was famous or rich, and she didn't treat him like a prize. Her simple apology was cleaner and more genuine than anything he had heard in a long time. In her tired eyes and humble posture, he saw something real, something he had been missing in his world of luxury and lies. For the first time in a long while, he felt like someone might actually speak to him without wanting anything in return. Nalady stood there nervously, unsure why he wanted to talk, but she answered every question with the same honesty she used in her daily life. She didn't try to act different or hide her reality. She didn't know he was someone important, so she felt no pressure to impress him. She simply spoke the way she always did, with truth. When he asked how her nights usually went, she let out a small, tired laugh and said people barely noticed she existed. Then she added softly that many workers only remembered her when the trash overflowed, or when something wasn't cleaned fast enough. She didn't say it with anger, just with the simple truth of someone used to being unseen. Her words made him sit up a little straighter. He wasn't expecting someone to speak so openly. Most people around him chose their words carefully, always trying to please him or gain favor. But Nalady wasn't doing that. She didn't even know he had power. She was just sharing her experience, unaware of how deeply it was affecting him. She talked about how workers like her kept buildings running, but were treated like shadows. She mentioned how some people avoided eye contact with cleaners, almost as if acknowledging them would make them feel guilty. She explained how tiring it was to work so hard and still feel invisible. As she spoke, he listened more closely than he had listened to anyone in months. Her words weren't polished or rehearsed, but they carried weight. They slipped past the walls he had built around himself. Hearing her describe how easily people overlooked those who kept everything functioning made him feel something sharp inside, a kind of ache he couldn't ignore. It reminded him of how often he, too, had been surrounded by people who saw only what they wanted to take from him. For a moment, he forgot about his wealth, his stress, and his loneliness. He just listened to a young woman who worked through endless nights without praise, yet still had the courage to speak her truth. Her honesty touched him in a way no report, no meeting, no advisor ever had. It made him realize that sometimes the most powerful truths came from the people no one cared to listen to. Cabello stayed quiet as Nalady returned to her work, but his eyes followed her every movement. He had never really watched someone clean before. He was used to arriving in spotless spaces without thinking about the hands that made them that way. But seeing her now, he noticed the care she put into every small action. She wiped each surface gently, as if it mattered. She arranged the chairs with focus, checking the angles twice before stepping back. Even when she swept, she did it with patience, like each stroke of the broom was a step toward a dream she refused to let die. It wasn't just cleaning. It was pride. It was hope. It was the only place in her life where she felt in control, and he could see that clearly. What struck him most was how she treated the space with respect, even though no one respected her position. She didn't rush or cut corners. She didn't sigh or complain about the hour. Instead, she moved like someone who believed her work still mattered. To him, it looked like she was polishing more than floors. She was polishing her future, refusing to let hardship change who she was. The patience in her movements made him wonder how someone with so little could carry herself with such grace. He reached into his pocket, pulled out some money, and quietly held it out to her. He wasn't trying to insult her. It was simply the only way he knew to show appreciation. People usually took money from him without hesitation, sometimes even demanded more. But Nalady's reaction shocked him. She looked at the cash for only a second before shaking her head firmly. She said she couldn't take it. When he tried again, she stepped back and told him she worked for dignity, not for extra handouts. Her voice was soft but steady, showing she meant every word. Cabello froze, the money still in his hand. No one refused him, ever. People chased his wealth, begged for his support, tried to impress him for opportunities. But here was a young woman, with worn shoes and tired eyes, refusing a tip because she believed taking it would shrink the value of her effort. Her refusal wasn't prideful. It was honest. He stared at her in disbelief, realizing that the person with the least had just shown him the greatest strength. In that quiet moment, he understood that her character was worth more than all the riches in his world. The next morning, Naledi felt uneasy as she was asked to report to the 40th floor boardroom. Her mind raced with worry. Had she made a mistake the night before? Was this a complaint? Maybe she had broken a rule, or maybe someone had noticed something she shouldn't have. Her stomach twisted with fear as she climbed the elevator, clutching her cleaning uniform and hoping she wouldn't be humiliated in front of everyone. Every floor felt higher than the last, and with each passing number her anxiety grew. When she stepped into the boardroom, her eyes widened. It was massive, full of polished tables, leather chairs, and walls lined with awards and framed pictures of smiling executives. She froze in the doorway, expecting to hear someone scolding her. But the room was quiet, the kind of silence that made her heart beat faster. Then the door opened wider, and he walked in, the man from last night. Only now he was different. He stood tall, confident, and surrounded by serious-looking executives who immediately addressed him as Sir. His presence filled the room in a way that made everyone else seem small. Naledi blinked, trying to process what was happening. The man she had thought of as just another tired stranger was clearly someone very important. The realization hit her slowly, like a ripple across calm water. The people who had been polite but distant last night were now deferential, standing respectfully and listening carefully to everything he said. He spoke to them with authority, and they responded with immediate attention, nodding to his words as if they were orders they couldn't ignore. Naledi felt her knees shake. This wasn't a meeting for mistakes or punishment. It was something else entirely. Her mind raced, trying to remember if she had done something wrong, yet she couldn't think of anything. She glanced at him, and for the first time, he looked at her with the same gentle expression from the night before. No anger, no irritation, just calm acknowledgement. For a moment she couldn't speak, couldn't move. The executives around him gave quiet cues, whispering and pointing occasionally, but he didn't seem to care about their reactions. He was focused on her, the young cleaner who had walked into his life in the quietest hours. Naledi's heart pounded as she realized that this encounter, the one she had never expected, was about to change everything. The fear of being fired slowly melted, replaced by a mix of hope and disbelief. She had no idea what was coming, but one thing was certain. Her life was about to turn in a way she had never imagined. Cabello stood at the head of the boardroom, his eyes scanning the room before settling on Naledi. The atmosphere was tense, the executives waiting for instructions, expecting the usual business talk. Then he spoke, his voice calm but strong, carrying a weight that made everyone stop and listen. He introduced himself, finally revealing who he really was. He didn't need to speak of his wealth or accomplishments. His presence alone commanded attention. Naledi's eyes widened as she realized that the man she had spoken to the night before, the tired and lonely stranger, was Cabello Obasai, one of the most powerful and respected businessmen in East Africa. For a moment, the room was silent. No one moved, no one whispered. Then Cabello turned toward her, and his words were clear and firm. He praised her honesty, humility, and the way she had carried herself during their encounter. He told everyone in the boardroom that her behavior had impressed him more than any report, presentation, or meeting ever could. Naledi's heart raced as she tried to comprehend what was happening. The quiet cleaner, unnoticed by everyone else, was being recognized in front of people she had only ever dreamed of meeting. Then he made the announcement that would change her life. He asked her to manage the new employee welfare program, a position that would allow her to improve the lives of many workers while giving her stability and respect she had never known. He explained that he wanted someone with real character, someone who understood hard work and dignity, not just someone with experience on paper. Naledi listened, her hands trembling, her mind barely able to keep up with his words. She felt disbelief, joy, and hope all at once. Cabello didn't stop there. He offered her a salary that would not only change her life, but also secure her brother's future. For the first time, she felt the weight of relief, a warmth spreading in her chest as she imagined a life without constant struggle. The executives around them watched quietly, some nodding in approval, some surprised, but all clearly impressed. Nalady's eyes filled with tears. She tried to speak, to thank him, but words failed her. She realized that her quiet nights of hard work, her sacrifices, and her determination had finally been seen and valued. In that moment, she understood that integrity and honesty could open doors that wealth and status alone could not. Her life was no longer the same, and she knew she would never forget the moment she was finally recognized for who she truly was. Nalady felt her heart swell as she nodded, tears slipping quietly down her cheeks. The weight of her years of struggle seemed to lift in that single moment. She had worked nights, hidden hunger, and carried the burdens of her brother alone for so long. And now, someone had truly seen her. For the first time, she felt recognized, respected, and valued, not for her looks, her background, or her connections, but for the honesty, pride, and strength she had carried silently through every long night. After accepting the offer, her first thought was for her brother. She could finally give him a proper home, a place where he could rest and recover without worry. She moved them both into a small apartment that felt like a real home for the first time in years. The walls were clean, the beds comfortable, and the space warm. Her brother smiled more freely now, his laughter filling corners that had once only known stress and sickness. For Nalady, seeing him safe and happy made every sleepless night and every sacrifice feel worth it. Her routine changed too. She still worked hard, but now she did so with purpose and pride that reached beyond cleaning floors. She managed the employee welfare program with care, ensuring that workers like her had their dignity respected and their voices heard. Every decision she made reminded her that honesty and humility could shape not just her life, but the lives of many others. Even when she walked past the corporate tower at night, her eyes instinctively lifted to the 40th floor. She remembered the first night she met Cabello, sitting alone, tired and unnoticed, and how her quiet words and honest heart had changed everything. The memory made her smile, a soft and proud smile that no one could take away. She remembered the look on his face when she refused a tip, the moment he realized that character could not be bought, and the realization that her life could finally change forever. Every night, when the city lights reflected in the windows, Nalady felt a sense of peace she had never known. She understood that dignity, courage, and kindness had real power. And as she stood there, looking up at the 40th floor, she silently promised herself she would never forget that moment. The night her struggle turned into opportunity, and the time when the world finally recognized the worth she had carried all along. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed Nalady's story, don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring African tales. Turn on the notification bell, so you never miss a story that touches the heart.